Today marks the 99th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre, also known as the Greenwood Massacre, cited as the worst incident of racial violence in American history. On May 30th, 1921, around 4 p.m., 19-year-old Dick Rowland entered the elevator of the Drexel building in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There he encountered 17-year-old Sarah Page, the elevator operator on duty. A clerk in the building heard the woman scream, followed by Dick Rowland fleeing the scene. The authorities were contacted and Rowland was arrested the following morning on May 31st. Later that same day, the Tulsa Tribune newspaper published the story and headlined it, "Nabbed Negro for Attacking Girl in an Elevator." In the hours following the Tulsa Tribune article, there was an angry mob of white people outside of the courthouse demanding Rowland be handed over to them, most certainly to be lynched. Sheriff Willard McCullough refused and formed a barricade around Rowland. Soon after, a group of African American men, most being World War I veterans, armed themselves and went to the courthouse to aid Sheriff Willard, although the help was denied. In response, many white people in the mob went home to arm themselves, while the remainder attempted to break into the National Guard armory nearby. Fortunately, they were unsuccessful thanks to Major James Bell of the 180th Infantry Regiment. Back at the courthouse with both whites and blacks armed, tensions quickly rose, some warning shots were fired, and then shortly after, chaos broke out. In the 19 hours that followed, Greenwood District, the most affluent African American community at the time, became a war zone. Hundreds of African Americans were murdered, along with businesses being looted, burned, and destroyed. The Tulsa Fire Department tried to respond to the fires, but were turned away by armed rioters. White people who employed African Americans were forced to turn them over or face the same violence themselves. Law enforcement officials participated in the massacre as well, as they dispatched planes from the Curtis Southwest Field, about a dozen of them according to eyewitness reports. The planes dropped bombs and burning turpentine balls over Greenwood, along with men firing at African American residents, young and old. Over 1,200 homes burned, 200 plus businesses looted, and hundreds murdered. The massacre only ended when the National Guard stepped in and placed the city under martial law. The day the massacre ended, all charges against Dick Rowland were dropped. He left Tulsa afterward and never returned. Sarah Page also disappeared and was never seen again. Many struggled to even find proof of her existence. The Tulsa Tribune removed their front page story. Police and state archives about the riot went missing, and for several decades there was no memorial or remembrance for those who were victims of the massacre.